Okay, welcome back to part 2 of the 633 Squadron 148th Airfix Mosquito build. And when I last left you, I was just finishing off doing the landing gear and engine nacelles by putting the inner wall in, and then painting or doing the final painting on the undercarriage, and done some weathering. If I can get it up to the camera, you can see that there's one of the assemblies. Tried fitting them into the housings again after all the work was done, and yes, it's still possible, so all is good. If you can just make out there some subtle weathering, some few little oil stains and some dirt, and I've also fitted the axle through the wheel and the legs, and like I said, I used fibre optic. Now, to stop that from falling apart and not using super glue, because super glue actually makes fibre optic brittle, just use a lighter and draw the flame close to the end of the fibre optic, if I can get this in the camera. And what the heat will do is it will mushroom the end, as long as you don't get too close, like I just did there. That'll just set fire, but you get the idea. And if you can see, makes a nice round mushroom end, which is you can see gleaming there. I've got to paint those in, but yeah, I've done it on both ends, so that's stopping the wheels from falling out, so that's all good. Next up will be the ailerons and the wings. Now, for the ailerons, I thought about, or the tailplane, I thought about cutting them into halves, and so I could reposition them into a dropped angle, because this will be depicted with its landing gear down and in a parking situation. So I don't know if you can see that, but I will fill all the gaps in and file up, and then glue them into a new position, and I'll just give a little bit of animation to the build. I think that'll look nice. And then from there we'll go on to assembling the wings and putting the engine nacelles onto that as well. So everything's moving on nicely, and we'll be back soon. See you later. Okay, we're back, and as I said previously, we're going to split the tailplane so that we could actually have positions in a different angle. As you can see, I've just done that, and if I just bring you this up close, we filled in the gaps that were left over, and just filed them into a round profile. And on the other side again, done likewise, but also then created a trough. You can actually see that, there we go, so that it gives the impression of a ball and socket joint, and as you can see, that'll fit in there nicely. And I've just temporarily glued one on the other side just to show you what it's like, show that a bit of animation. I'll take those back off again when I get to paint it, so I can paint those off the airplane, so that all the areas can be done nice and neat. So yeah, she's looking good, a bit different to box standard. So yeah, all to do well, we'll carry on. Next will be the wings, and we'll get those started to be assembled after this. Okay, and we're back again. Now, as you can see, I've got the wings assembled. Wasn't an easy job, because this is basically half a retool of another model. The under wings are from an earlier kit, and the engines and the top half of the wings are from the later release. Now, the problem being is that the mounting pins that are inside are too long, so I've had to shave those off. And also that the top part of the wing is slightly wider than the underneath, so there's been a lot of filing, and also some filling, if you can see, just inside on the wheel compartments and such like. Also, the fit to the wings to the fuselage weren't very good at all, so there's been a lot of shaving and filing and reshaping to sort of get them as close as I can as possible. Now, there's not the usual even the old style Airfix tab which goes inside, or even the new Tamiya where there's the extensions that come out of the actual fuselage. So it's a bit of hit and miss. It's taken quite a few hours to shave and file and reprofile, but it's getting there. What I shall do is I will attach them with some super glue and then run around the seams then with some poly cement to give them a good bond. I've also put the spare cockpit on, as you can see, masked off just with some canopy glue, just so that that masks off the cockpit for when I start to put the primer on. Now I've still got a few bits of sanding and sort of fiddling to do, and some finessing, especially, I mean, as you can see here on the back end where the bottom part of the wheel bay joins the top half of the wing, there was an horrendous gap. So that, again, that's got to be filled, sanded, profiled, and we'll go from there. So hopefully the next time you see me I'll have the wings attached. Before I mask off, or before I actually primer, I'll put some mask oil in the clear parts for the landing lights. Yep, so it's getting there, slowly but surely, so we'll come back. Okay, now we're back and I've got the wings on at last. Like I said previously, I had to use super glue and then run over the seams with some poly cement. Still a lot of filling to do. Certainly on the top section there, just by the cockpit, if you can just make out that. There's still a big step there which I filled in, still got to sand that down. Also, I found that once I'd put the wings on, that this side was actually out of true, and come to find out it was where the actual engine nacelle wheel bay was glued together. It was actually too short, so what I done was I reopened it and stuck a spacer inside there, just about like that, and then put some filler inside of that, and that's then kicked up the end of the wing back up to its correct angle. If we can just make out there, they're both good. Now what I will do is I've also put the mask oil in on the landing lights, and I've put the nose canopy on. Now as you can make out, I've drilled some holes in there, and that's for the machine guns, which will all become evident because the actual airplanes that they actually used in the film weren't actually fighter bombers. They were actually old tugs and dressed up to look like the fighter bombers, so hence that's why we're using the clear nose, and then I shall insert the guns later. So now it's just to finish up tidying up some of the filler, and then we'll clean her down and get the first coat of primer on. So she's coming along, looking good. So yep, that's all good. Okay, now we jumped a couple of steps. Like I said, I was going to put the primer on once I'd done all the filler, and now also attempted my first or do my first attempt at pre-shading prior to putting the top coats on and the camouflage. Now don't know how this will work out, but like I say, this is my first go at it. Been watching plenty of tutorials on YouTube, so I shall give it a go. If it doesn't work, then I can just always go over with the plain colour on a couple of extra coats, and that'll cover up all the black. It's just literally flat black sprayed onto all the panel lines, and hopefully that should go out giving a highlighted look that I'm after. So I'll get the paint and the airbrush ready, and we'll go on and see how this turns out. Incidentally, the primer I used was an automotive spray can, rattle can, tough, hard wearing, gone on pretty well. Just a light sanding down just to get any little lumps and imperfections out, but yeah, look nice. So we'll carry on now. So I'll do the underbelly first in the what are we, the medium sea grey XF83. If you can see that, XF83, and see how she turns out. Hopefully I'm on to a winner. Okay, well, the under body colour has been sprayed on. Now you probably can't see a lot of this because this is almost the same colour as the primer, but there is just a very subtle sort of shading. I didn't like it as it was coming out too heavy, so I went over with a second coat just to tone it down a bit more. It's very subtle. Yeah, I'm liking it, and hopefully during the weathering process got to put a clear coat over the top, so that might help to just bring out a little bit more. You can just make out there on the wing where the light catches it, just about there. You can see some shading, but yeah, that's looking nice. I'll let that dry now, and then we'll start thinking about doing the top. I know I've got the actual engine covers to fit, but I'm just going to research this because I'm not sure whether this actual panel line, which runs all the way through the front, is actually on the original on the actual aircraft, so I might fill those in before carrying on doing the camouflage. Now I will try and do the blue tack style of spraying the camouflage on. Never tried it before, so this is another new experiment, so hopefully that'll go well. If not, again I'll have to go back over with the traditional sort of paper method, drawing it on, cutting out the masks, such like. But yeah, just so a shame that you can't actually see to the full extent the actual paint going on, because like I say, it's almost the same colour as the primer. So, but yeah, I'm happy with that. So we'll leave that now to dry overnight, or maybe come back to it later, and we'll carry on.